Oh, thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get the chance to talk about on a regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere, SoundCloud, Pandora, the whole 9 yards. They're top 40 quarterbacks in the NFL, quarterback number 18 and 17. First, quarterback number 18, Daniel Jones. Everybody thinks this guy sucks. And Daniel Jones is not half as bad as the media tells you and fans of the game will tell you. I think everybody who thinks that he sucks, if you think he's not a top 25 quarterback, I just think you're just being asinine and foolish and kidding yourself. First of all, it's been hard to evaluate him in all of his time in the NFL because guess what? The Giants' offensive line sucks. If you think the Cincinnati Bengals' offensive line sucks, not saying he's Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is, of course, much better. But Daniel Jones, probably the second worst offensive line, probably has had the worst offensive line the last 3 to 4 years he's been in the NFL. He consistently gets hit over and over and over again. And I thought last year, actually, when he played against the Rams, I thought he was concussed, and the Giants let him go out there, and he had an awful game. So first, let's get that out of there. Get that out of the box, right? That it's hard to evaluate him with having such an atrocious offensive line. Now we get to the stuff he does well. He has a very solid arm. His arm is stronger than guys like Jimmy Garoppolo. It's stronger than guys like Tua Tagovailoa. In terms of his mobility, he's more mobile than guys like a Baker Mayfield. He's more mobile than guys like a Jameis Winston. He's a top 10 scrambler in the NFL. When the pocket breaks, he can scramble, he can throw on the run and make plays. He also has the ability to throw a few different arm angles, not the whole repertoire of a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, but he has a few arm angles. Also, he's very good at going through his reads from 1 to 2 to 3. He does a pretty solid job at doing that. Also, he's tough as nails in the pocket in terms of he's willing to stand in there and throw and deliver the throw downfield as he's being hit, which I appreciate as well. So he has some power throws in his repertoire that some other guys don't. Like I said, underrated arm. Throws a very catchable ball for the most part. Receivers aren't having to break stride. They're not having to jump up super high to catch the ball, drop down super low to get the ball. So pretty quarterback-friendly ball that he throws. He's also pretty good in play action, has a good feel for climbing in the pocket and moving within the pocket. So when I mention all these things, it's like, yeah, Daniel Jones is a lot better than most of you guys think. Now, we can get to the negatives here. I think his awareness with pressure is atrocious. It might be the worst in the NFL. He gets hit a lot, unnecessary, needs to learn when to throw the ball away, but I think he just has a very pedestrian feel for pressure. Also, I think he needs to be more consistent with his precision passing, his accuracy in the middle of the field, as well as his anticipation with throwing the ball and kind of seeing it open before it actually is open. He needs to get more consistent with that. He can become a little erratic at times, though I think he does show the potential to be a pretty solid rhythm thrower. And when things are covered, sometimes he does not thread the needle perfectly, right? The accuracy, like I said, the accuracy, the anticipation, the touch can be a little off at times. It's not perfect, but there's a lot to like, and a guy like Brian Daboll, who I think is one of the better offensive minds of the game, I think you can get a lot out of Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is not a lost cause. He's not some dude that's not talented. He's a real athlete with a real live arm, with some real scrambling ability and some real traits that we look at in this modern NFL, and we're like, okay, this guy can be a solid quarterback in the NFL, though he has to clean up some of the dumb mistakes, the fumbles, the bad pocket awareness, the anticipation, which I all think those are things he can improve on. Daniel Jones is not a lost cause. Next, we get into quarterback 17, Mac Jones. A lot of people, like my friend Ben Karen, host of the Sports Quality podcast, thinks that all I'm about is physical ability, how fast, how big your arm is, how good of a scrambler you are, right? And if Ben, and I'm speaking to you, Ben, if you're listening, if that was the case, then a guy like Mac Jones would not be in my top 20, but he is. Mac Jones does not have any of the physical traits. Not a very strong arm, not a guy who you can run in the QB design run game, and not a good scrambler. All three physical ability traits that I highly value. So how does he find himself ahead of a guy like Daniel Jones, who actually Daniel Jones, stronger arm than Mac, better scrambler than Mac, and better in the QB design run game than Mac? Well, here's what Mac does very well. He's extremely consistent throwing the football. If a receiver is open down the field, 10 out of 10 times, Mac Jones is hitting him right in the hands and stride for a yak. He does not leave any yards on the field. Now, he does not make a whole lot of plays, but when plays are there to be had and when mistakes are there on the defense, he capitalizes on them. hits the open man, like I said, takes advantage of blown coverages. He does all the little things that allows him to play the QB position at a very high level. He knows when to throw the football away. He knows how to protect the football. He might not be the guy who's carrying you, but he will not be the guy who is the reason you lose. If you lose on Sunday, it's not because Mac Jones threw the game away and he made a bunch of mistakes. Now, it won't be because he won the game, but it will for sure as hell not be because he lost the game. Those are things that I think he does very well. Within 20 yards, he's extremely accurate. He's good at working the short passing game. He's very good at subtly moving his feet in the pocket. He's smart, and he's not afraid of big moments. Now, you guys remember the Tampa Buccaneers game last year. Pouring rain like a monsoon in Foxborough. Tom Brady's going back to Massachusetts, right? The house he built in Foxborough, Gillette Stadium. And you want to know what happens? You want to know what Mac Jones does? He completes 19 straight passes, a lot of focus, very good at the precision passing game. At times, things I don't like about Mac Jones, he becomes too check down reliant. I think he's very comfortable saying, hey, let's take the check down. Let's take the check down to the running back, check down to the running back, where it's like you need to push the ball downfield. I also think because of his lack of arm strength, he can throw some wobblers at times, particularly in bad weather. I think that can have a snowball effect, like when we look at how he played in the bad weather in Buffalo and the playoff game. I also think he can struggle when he's put in pressure, physical pressure, and the pocket. He's not a guy who can stand right in the pocket. Defensive lineman's going to cave in his chest, and he's going to make a power throw 20 yards down the field. That is not something Mac Jones can do. He needs to become more dynamic, stronger arm, and needs to become an overall a better athlete. Those are things that I think I have kind of looked at Mac, right? Mac's all really good at the little things, but can he be a guy who can be a false multiplier, who can carry you, right? Right now, his arm's not strong, not good at physically throwing under pressure, not a scrambler, not a guy in the QB run in the run game. At least the arm strength capacity, needs to make more throws down the field. I think those are things that will have to improve for him to take the next step in his quarterback evolution. And those are quarterbacks 17 and 18 in my top 40 quarterbacks in the NFL. Have a great day, everybody, and God bless.